Hello, hello. It's Lachelle. I'm doing a pop-up live. If I can just have your attention. I hope that everybody is able to hear me correctly. I pray that everyone's Christmas was blessed. Everybody had a blessed holiday and remembering all the goodness that Christmas brings. And remember the true meaning behind Christmas. I am so happy to be here and to be able to join you guys today. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to come in. The only thing that I ask is that y'all respect one another, respect this community, respect what's being said. You don't have to agree 100% with it. You don't even have to agree at all. Let's just remember to remain respectful, not only to ourselves, but to others. So again, I'm just going to give others a minute to come in. This is a pop-up live. It's unscheduled. When the Lord, I told y'all before, when the Lord give me a word or a message to put out to his children, I must be obedient to whatever he has calling or he has spoken to me to say to his people. So again, I will give everybody just a few more minutes to get in, and then I'll go ahead and get started. And if you see me looking over, I have notes that I have written down. So I'll be looking to the side occasionally. And I'm just going to let the Holy Spirit lead me with this and all of his words, Father, and none of mine. So I know that I must decrease so the Holy Spirit, so the Lord can increase. Amen. Just a few more minutes and I'm going to go ahead and get started. A few more minutes. Once you join me, if you don't mind, let me know where you're joining from. Hi, George. How you doing today? How you doing today? If you don't mind, let me know where you're joining from. Hello, hello. I hope everybody had a blessed Christmas yesterday. For those that do participate and celebrate, I hope that your holiday was blessed. And today, you got joy and you're feeling blessed, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the Lord gave me a message for some of his children. And he's calling a lot of his children out of situationships. Out of situationships. So according to the dictionary, according to Google, what exactly is a situationship? So I'll be looking down, and according to the definition that I've written down, that kind of matches all the definitions in one. A situationship is a romantic sexual relationship that is not considered to be formal or established. So technically, a situationship is a relationship that has no commitment. It has no end game. It has no future in it. It's like a you scratch my back, I scratch your back type of thing. I'm not sure if anybody got kids around, but I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Usually, there's some type of relational, sexual things that's give or take, okay? Money-wise, sexual-wise, whatever. Again, it's like I scratch your back and you scratch my back type thing. But the thing is with a situationship is that it does not lead to nowhere. It usually starts off as a mutual agreement between a man and a woman, okay? It usually starts off with something mutual that both parties come to agree to, okay? But over term, and it will last a long term because usually one person usually benefits from that situation more so than the other, okay? So when both parties usually start off, they're both in agreement of it, okay? So maybe you getting your needs met and he's getting his needs met. Whatever the agreement is that's between two parties, they both start off. But long term speaking, there's no end goal. There's no future. Let's just put it like that. We're excited for a vacation and we get on the road for a vacation, heading to the destination. We just gonna say Jamaica. We heading to Jamaica. We excited. Me and my partner, we agreeing to it, okay? But we constantly driving and driving and driving and driving and going and going, and we passing up destinations and resting places and everything. and we don't see an end. There's no end. So that's what a situationship is kind of similar to. And a lot of God is calling a lot of his children out of situationships, out of relationship that has no end goal. It's not going anywhere. Okay. And so my thing is, I wanted to get up on here because I know a lot of women, I know a lot of men is trusting God for a marriage, okay, a kingdom marriage. But the thing is, a lot of us have grown accustomed to allowing other people to keep our future spouse's seat warm. We allow people that shouldn't even had a conversation, we shouldn't even have changed numbers with, that shouldn't even had our name, we shouldn't even have changed names to get past point A. So now they still here years and years later without no form of commitment. They're not leading you nowhere. Y'all not going absolutely nowhere. There's no end game. There's no talk of the future. And when there is talk of the future, it's one person indeed that said, I'm just going to go with the flow. What is going with the flow? What is that? I'm not understanding that language. What is going with the flow? So that person is technically saying, we're going to take it day by day. So my question is, and the Lord said, he started speaking to me, why would any of my children would allow themselves to be somebody's option? Why would any of my children allow themselves to be someone's option? You never want to be someone else's option. Never decide to lower your standards or lower your values or compromise to anybody and become somebody else's option. You know you somebody else's option is when you have to schedule something with this person. Okay, you know you somebody else's option when everything is scheduled between you and him, or her and you. But this is not gender based. This goes for male and female. You know you somebody else's option when you have to schedule a day. Everything is on the schedule. It's so much of a pattern and it's so much of a schedule that you can predict the time that they're going to text you. You can predict the time they're going to meet up with you. You can predict the time they're going to call you. You can even predict what they're going to text or what y'all going to talk about. And that's how you know that you're somebody else's option. But the Lord is calling a lot of his children out of situationships. He's calling a lot of his kids out of situationships, and he's telling us that them type of relationships is ungodly. Them type of relationship does not bear fruit. And a lot of us get caught up in it because it started one way, but then years later, 5 years down the road, we look back and we ask ourselves, well, how did I get here? How did I get here? Because we start compromising. You get what I'm saying? We start feeling like we done waited on the Lord too long, and we start looking at how everybody else's lives seem blessed, that we forget the promises that the Lord spoke over our lives. So the Lord is calling a lot of his children out of situationships, relationships that don't have an end goal. They don't have no end goal. But yet, and you may find yourself making somebody else a priority while you're their option. Never make somebody else a priority while you're their option. You should never be somebody option. You should always be somebody priority. A man or a woman that prioritize you will make you number one outside of God in their life. They will make sure that you feel loved. They will make sure that you feel valued, and you wouldn't have to compromise for the right person. But in situationships, again, it's a give and take type of thing. And usually, like I said, it starts off with two people being fully in agreement, but later on down the road, somebody gets more attached than the other. And like I said, there's no end game in situationships. Okay, so you have to come up out of that. You have to know that God has better for you, and you have to come into agreement that I have to learn how to be alone sometimes. I think a lot of us, we are scared to sit alone with ourselves. We scared to listen to our own thoughts, because it'll reveal a lot of things about us. And a lot of us, we don't want to know a lot of things about ourselves because it may scare us. But it's good to be alone, okay? Sometimes it's good to sit with yourself, because when you sit with yourself with your own thoughts, it'll reveal what your true character is. And it'll keep you out of relationships that God never ordained for you to even go into in the first place. But situationships is a no-no. And then you wait on them for a commitment, and the commitment never happens. And some people, they benefit off of it. They benefit off of it because they benefit off your brokenness. They benefit. You got narcissist type of people that literally prey on empathetic people. They can see the heart of people, and they will literally prey on a good person. You could have been spilled your whole life story out. You could have been told these people everything that you done been through, every heartache, every pain, and everything, and they'll sit right there and they'll rub you on the shoulder and pat you on the back, and still have something, an evil motive in their mind that they gonna do to you, that they planning on doing to you. They'll stick around for you and with you because it's benefiting them. It benefits them in situationships. And a lot of people hope that when they go into situationships that it turn into relationships. And a lot of times, the majority of the time, it never becomes a relationship, because a situationship is just occupying time. It kills time. It kills time for you. It kills time for that other person. It's nothing that normally turns into a relationship. Nothing is to be glorified out of that. Majority of some people be married. They already be in a relationship, and they just want something on the side to keep them occupied. Or when husband ain't doing right or wife not doing right, then I can hit up her or I can hit up him. But the Lord is calling a lot of y'all out of that, because he said, I see what you possess. You have the husband qualities. You have the wife qualities, but you've given them to the wrong people. You giving them to the wrong people. You throwing all your precious pearls to swine. He said, you have to be able to love yourself enough to walk away from something that don't benefit you. What does it serve you to be in a situationship that has no end goal? A man or a woman that's submitted to God, that's honestly submitted under God and actively walks with God, would not have a problem with submitting to you. Would not have a problem with making you their priority. When you honestly find a man or a woman that's God sent, wouldn't have a problem with submitting to you. But a lot of us, like I said, we lack the healing. And when you lack healing, a lot of evilness, they attract to unhealed versions of you. This is why, if it seems like you are always in and out of relationships, and it seems like it's the same person but in a different body, maybe they got a different job, maybe they live on a different side of town, but it seems like it's still your ex but in a different body. Yeah, that's technically the same person you're attracting, because you have yet to fully heal. So until you fully heal, until you completely learn how to sit with yourself and learn and trust God that in a future, or in his divine timing, he will raise up a king or a queen for you, then you're going to always attract the same person, just in a different body. I don't care how much money they make. They might live in a different area code, but it's still going to be the same person, just in a different body. So situationships, they don't have no goal. You don't normally meet their family, and if you do, it's sad to say, but the family be going along with it. They owe you no loyalty. They owe whoever that's bringing you around them the loyalty. So even if they know that this man has a whole wife, and you think you doing it big in a sense because you feel like you got one up because you met the kids, or you met the mother or whatever, but this man's still married. He's still a married man. She's still a married woman. And a lot of men and a lot of women, men specifically, will say, well, I'm unhappy and I'm gonna file for divorce and I'm gonna leave my wife. Majority of the time, that's not gonna happen. Majority of the time, that's not going to happen. They just looking for somebody that'll scratch that itch that's been itching them, and that's it. And if you that woman, or if you that man that's going to scratch that itch for you, of course they going to stay around. They're going to feed you and say whatever they want to you, because they know that you buying into it. And the Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all his thinking. So somebody that's telling you, I don't know, let's just take it day by day, I'm going with the flow, and y'all already a year in. Come on now. He said a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. He know what he want. It's just not you. He want to use you up and run through you. Same with a woman. It ain't no different. This is not gender-based. Use you up. He want to use you up for whatever needs that means to him or her, and then discard you. And a lot of people, they see greatness in you. A lot of people will see greatness in you, but due to the fact they don't want nobody else to have you, they'll try to keep you stuck at their level. So that's why you can't seem to attract that man or woman that you know that you honestly can be for somebody else. That's why it seems like you're attracting the same people, because you attract the people that's attracted to you is attracted to your unhealed version. But until you fully heal yourself, you're gonna continue to attract these evil and these wicked people that's only here to only take you nowhere. Because again, I'm going to stand on this and say a man or a woman that's not submitted to God, who is they submitted to? If you're not submitted to God and you're trying to lead me, then if I'm following you and I submit to you, but you're not submitted to something to somebody, which is God, should be the head of a man's life, honestly should be a head of everybody's life. But where are you going? Nowhere. And a lot of people, they'll keep you right there with them because they have no plans on bettering themselves. They have no plans for themselves. Okay, so a lot of people will see greatness in you. They can see that you obviously wife material. They'll see that you obviously husband material. But due to the fact they're not willing to change for you, a lot of people say, I'm married, I don't want to do that again, or I done tried that, I got hurt too much in the past. But why you on the dating scene then? Don't never agree. Don't ever put yourself in a situationship, because it'll start off as something as a mutual commitment. And usually, and I'm going to say this more so for a woman, the woman becomes more attached in that situationship than a man. Okay, this is why it's so dangerous to commit to a situationship, because first of all, a lot of us will get in and say, oh, we just looking to have a good time, or we just looking to pass up time, or it ain't nothing serious. And then we'll look 10 or 5 years down the road and we done committed our lives. We done had children by these people. They got a whole family on another side of town. So you have to be careful of what you entertain, because it's a lot of demons out there. Okay, it's a lot of demons that prey on good people. They pray, they seek them out, and they know when you heal. They know when you heal. They know when you desperate. Believe me, they know when you desperate for something. They know when it's a void in you, and they're attracted to that void up in you. But you not knowing better, because you working out the unhealed version of you. You working out the broken version of you. You're attracted to them because they feeding you everything that you always wanted to hear. They telling you things that sound good for you temporarily, but still there's no end goal in it, because a man or a woman that prioritizes you, that loves you, wouldn't have a problem with submitting to you. They won't have you in and out of hotel rooms and hiding you and scheduling a time to meet up with you and date you and flipping their phone upside down while you in their presence, and then they taking calls and they going outside the room while they taking calls, everything, and then you sitting there ignoring it because you don't think you could do no better. You don't think you can do no better because you've been waiting. You've been in a waiting season for so long, and it feel like God done passed you up. So you don't feel like you can do no better. But you got to come up out that mindset and say, God does have somebody for me, and I have to come up out this situationship. We're going into 2025. There is absolutely no reason why any of us should be committed to relationships that ain't leading us down the aisle, that ain't leading us under a covenant under God. There is absolutely no reason. It ain't no time range for this. It is not too late. But you got to wake up enough to say, I value me. I will no longer compromise with the enemy. I will no longer compromise on my standards and my values. I am tired of lowering my standards and values and settling, because that's what you do when you enter into situationships. You settle. Situationships make you settle. They make you believe something that's not true. It makes you diminish yourself. It diminishes your value. It diminishes your worth. And not only that, it keeps you from finding the right person that God wants to give you. It keeps you in a time loop that you keep traveling around that same mountain with the same people, just in different bodies. You ever go on a dating scene, and then after a month or after a couple of weeks, you say, dang, he remind me of my ex, or she remind me of my ex. Yeah, that's because you still attracting the same person, because you have not sat with yourself. You have not did the work on yourself. And until you do that, you won't get the person that God has for you. And he desires for you to have a God-ordained husband or wife. That is his ultimate desire for his kids, especially if he gave you that desire. But he has called a lot of us out of situationships. He said, you got to come up out that situationship. You got to stop dancing for the devil. You got to stop doing stuff that's ungodly. He said, because what man don't see, I see. I see what you do. He said, I see how you entertain the wrong people. People that shouldn't even got your names, but you still entertain it because you failed to do the healing on yourself. So now you find yourself in a situationship 5 years later now. And here we go into 2025. He said, y'all got to come up out of that. You got to heal yourself enough to come up out that situationship. He said, because you should never be an option. Never be an option. Never make yourself an option. You should always be somebody's priority. You should never be an option to nobody. If somebody got to constantly schedule something, I understand that people become busy now. People have jobs. People have businesses to run. I get that. We live in a fast generation, but shouldn't nobody ever come too busy where they scheduling every time, everything, every text message, you know when they gonna text. That's a red flag on its own. I know he gonna text at 6:05, and I know the latest I'ma hear, he gonna send me a good night text at 8 p.m. and then I'm gonna wake up to a good morning text at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then he gonna schedule a meet with me on Fridays because Sunday through Thursdays he out of town. Come on now, come on up out that situationship. You could deny it all day long. I've been there. I told you I would never get on a platform, and there's no condemnation for me. There's no shame, because I had to come into an agreement that the Lord has better for me. I had to come into the agreement that everybody ain't gonna see my worth. God hid my worth from some people. It ain't up to them to validate me. And I had to realize that I was seeking validation with some in the wrong places. So that's why I can get up on here and I can say what I can say, because I've been delivered from that. And it wasn't easy, and it wasn't an overnight thing, okay? But I know if I would have stayed up in a situation that wasn't going nowhere, it would have walked me straight away from God. And then this how you know is another thing. It's a situationship. Is it bringing you closer to God? Any relationship that's from God, that has God as the center, should be actually washing you in the word. It should be actually pushing you closer to God, not bringing you further away from him. If you find yourself sneaking to do something in secret, oh baby, you need to reevaluate that. You need to reevaluate it, because again, we can hide it from others. We can hide it from our families, our friends, and everybody else, but we can't hide it from God. We cannot hide it from God. And y'all, we have to come up out these situationships and come into agreement that if God gave you a promise of a husband or a wife, he's going to deliver on that promise. His promises is always yes and amen. Do you understand me? The Lord desires for his children to have marriage. I can't get up on here and do prophetic words and say it tomorrow, or you in your season and stuff like that. I can't release a word that God did not tell me to release, but it pains me and it hurts my feelings to look and see some of my brothers and sisters stuck in relationships that ain't going nowhere. And you can tell that it's the heart that's behind it. They have such good hearts. They such good people, but they entertaining the wrong people that they should have been walked away from. You want to know why? Why it's so hard? Because feelings done got invested. The heart done got invested. What the Lord said, guard your heart. Guard your heart, because above all these things, what flows out of it? Guard your heart. The heart can be deceitful too. And a lot of us, we stay in things because time. We done spent time. We done built. We done used our resources. And a lot of us, we get comfortable and we don't want to start over. I don't think nobody really want to start over. But the Lord is calling a lot of his children out of these situationships. He said, y'all, we got to come up out of them. Never be an option for somebody. When you make them a priority and you an option in their life, it's time to reevaluate some things. Matter of fact, it ain't nothing to be reevaluated. But in case you want to go back and reevaluate it, you can go back and reevaluate it. But you got to come up out of it, because a situationship is easy to go into, but it's hard to come up out of. A situationship is easy to go into, but hard to come up out of. Because again, when we go into situationship, it's a I scratch your back, you scratch my back type of thing. But over time, feelings and resources and time and all these things start to get involved, and there go the hard part. And so now it's not as easy to walk away from this man or from this woman. But the Lord is calling a lot of his children in this season out of this situationship. You have to love yourself enough to allow your heart to break so your soul can heal. And that comes from my mentor in spirit, Mr. R.C. Blakes. He's very good. Go check him out, Mr. R.C. Blakes. He said you have to love yourself enough to walk away from anything that no longer serves you. Sometimes you got to participate in your own heartbreak. And you can say, yeah, I love that person, but I deserve a ring. I deserve that family. I deserve whatever the Lord said that he want to give to me. But I won't be able to see it if I remain here in this situationship. If I remain here in this relationship that's not going nowhere. It's not bearing no fruit. I got to hide it. If you got to hide your relationship, it's something wrong. If your relationship got to be hidden and it got to be scheduled on whoever time frame, it's something wrong. You got to come up out of that. Because love, it does not hide. It don't have a reason to hide. And God is calling a lot of his children in this season out of these situationships, and he's wanted me to get up on here. He said, go up on there and tell my children they should never be an option. He said, I didn't make them an option. He said, I knew y'all. I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. You was never an option when you came into this world. When you came up out your mother, you was never an option. So why play an option? Why let somebody play with you like that? It make you an option. And you can't even be a priority in their life. You make them a priority. You set aside whatever you got going on, however that looks. And you make them, you prioritize them. But they can't even prioritize you. You only probably met so much of their families and friends, but again, their family and friend loyalty is not to you, it's to them. So the Lord say, come up out that relationship, come up out that situationship. You got to come up out of it. Love yourself enough to walk away from anything or anybody in a situation, any circumstances that does not serve you. It's a time and it's a season for everything, and sometimes we have to realize when something is up. You have to be able to love yourself enough to say, yes, I love you, but I love me more. And I know that this does not have an end goal. There's no end sight up in here for me or you. And I know what I'm deserving of. I know that I'm wife material. I know that I'm husband material. And all because you don't think I'm enough, all because you don't see my value, all because you don't want to validate me, that don't mean that it's somebody that's not out there for you that won't do what others don't want to do for you, because it's a choice. And you can't make somebody see you as a wife. You can't make somebody see you as a husband. You just can't make somebody want you. But you got to want yourself and love yourself to come up out of anything that does not bring value to you. If you find yourself compromising on things that you know is biblical, that you know is righteous, that you know is holy, that you know helps you be the woman of God or the man of God that you are today, and you find yourself having to compromise that, then it's time to walk away from that man or woman. Yes, it hurts, but don't go into 2025 with soul ties and people that shouldn't even had a conversation with you from the get-go. Sometimes we entertain people that shouldn't even got our name. We shouldn't even swap numbers with. And then let me tell you something about the healed version of you. Once you become healed, you will look back on that and you say, Lord, what was I thinking? Lord, what was I thinking? Because you look at them and you start reminiscing and you say, Lord, no, I didn't. Did I do that? Did I say that? This person in the healed version of me, I wouldn't even look their way. I wouldn't even give them a conversation. That's how you know that you're working out the unhealed version of you. Because you're choosing the same person over and over again, just in a different body. But the Lord said this year, right now, you got to come up out that situationship. That man is not finna leave his wife. I'm here to tell you. I don't care what he say. That woman ain't finna leave her husband. They just gonna tell you that to keep you there so they can continue to get what they want from you, that they ain't getting from at home. And they could be still getting it at home, whatever it may be. It can be just down to conversation, but why would you play side to somebody when you can have first place in somebody's life? God didn't make you to be nobody's side piece. God didn't create none of his children to be nobody's side piece. But a lot of us, we play side piece because we have to heal ourselves. We don't think that God has anybody else better for us. And a lot of us, we don't want to do the work because we're scared that something going to pass us by. But God will never deter something that belongs to you. You will never miss out on something that God has for you. If it's a promise and he spoke it, it's going to come to you. But you have a responsibility of helping yourself getting there by healing yourself so you can activate and become the best version of yourself to be able to receive that man of God or that woman of God. You have to come up out that situationship. You have to train yourself to say, I will never be nobody else's option again. I am worthy enough to always be first place. I deserve to be prioritized. And the man or woman of God that the Lord has for y'all will let you see that. They will make you, you don't have to question it. It will come natural. You won't have to question it. You don't have to do dances and tricks and treats and have to compromise and get deals and negotiations with the person that the Lord has for you. But in situationships, there's no end goal. There is just a road that keep on going. And as long as you putting out, a user will take. As long as you keep on putting out, a user will take. because you putting out. They don't have to do they feeding off your desperation, and you so desperate to be loved, they picking up on everything that they think you want to hear, everything that they think that you want to do, and they're doing it for you temporarily because they benefiting off your brokenness. They benefiting off of you just giving away your value left and right. Because every time we sleep with somebody, knowingly or unknowingly, when I say that, whether we think we in love or not, every time we sleep with somebody and we're not married to them, we giving away our value, our worth, and we creating soul ties. And that's why I said situationships is easy to get into but hard to come up out of. But the Lord say we have to come up out these situationships. It's time for us. He said, I want my women of God to start healing so I can give them the man that I promised them. He said that y'all have to do that work in healing. Everybody want the gift, but don't nobody want to participate in the healing process of it. But he said you got to come up out that situationship, because a lot of people, a double-minded man is unstable in all his thinking. How somebody say just go with the flow? Here we is 2 years later and we still going with the flow. Here we is 10 years later with no end goal. We just living together, probably making children together. Probably ain't even met each other family. That's probably limited. Everything is probably limited in situationships. Being on a time schedule, only allowed to spend so much time together with somebody. Heal yourself so you can experience the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living, because God has better for you. But you have to come into an agreement that God has better for me, and stop giving away your body, stop giving away your worth to people that don't even deserve you. You got to know that you're worthy of all the love that the Lord wants you to receive. You have to understand it, because it don't matter how many times that I tell you, the preacher tell you. It don't matter how many times whoever try to be positive and tell you, until you fully heal yourself and come into agreement that I am worthy and I'm worth waiting on. That I don't have to compromise. I don't have to lower my values and my standards to be loved. The person that God has for me will take me as I am, through my flaws and everything that everybody else say ain't good enough. When everybody else say I am not good enough, the man or woman that God has for you will love you through your flaws and all. And you don't even have to be completely healed for God to send you somebody, because that person that God sends you will love you and they will help heal you. But God said you have to come up out that situationship. If it's bringing you further away from God, it ain't from God. God will never send us a friendship, a relationship, or anything to entertain to be a part of our life, and it brings us further away from him and not closer. His desire for us is to prosper, to give us a hope, and to give us a future. And you are included up in that. You are included up in that. But you have to come into agreement. I'm going to come up out this situationship. You're right. I'm nobody option. God didn't make me an option. He said he knew me before he formed me in my mother's womb. I was already thought about. I was already created. Never be somebody else's option. Being an option is never an option. Always be somebody number one. Somebody that love you, somebody that's committed to you, will make time for you. They don't have to schedule something. They don't have to meet with you one time a week. They don't have to hide you from their friends and family. You've been with somebody for over a year and you ain't met their family and friends? It's a problem. You should never be okay with that. And then they feeding you all this stuff because they ain't socialized, or I don't talk to them no more, or whatever they may be trying to feed you to get you to stay. And they're going to try to feed you that because they see something great in you. But they're not willing to fully commit to you because you're not the one that they want. I hate to say it like that, but it's the truth. Because when somebody said that to me, it hurt me a little bit. Because I know what I possess. I know my attributes. But then again, I had to go sit with myself and sit with God and allow God to validate me. And once I allow God to validate me and I start realizing and come to my senses of who I am in God, then me being in a situationship or me going with the flow with people and trying to just say I'm passing time, all that stuff went out the door. All that stuff went out the window. So the Lord is calling a lot of his children out of situationships. He said, if it don't bring me honor, if it don't bring me glory, if it ain't no end goal, if it's bringing me further away, you find yourself stressing out, you find yourself on a schedule when you can text them, when you can call them, you got to come up out of that because you're not being prioritized, you're being used. He said, stop compromising. You don't have to compromise, he said. He said, learn how to sit with yourself. Sometimes you got to learn how to be by yourself. You have to learn how to be alone in some seasons. It ain't the worst thing. People think that being alone sometimes is the worst thing. A single season is some of the best days of your life. You hear me? But you have to come to realize that, Lord, what is it in this single season that you want to teach me? Because the thing is, you become a husband before the ring, before the I do, before the altar. You become a wife before the ring, before the I do, before the altar. You don't just become that after all this is done. You in preparation season. You prep and you learn before you go, before the I do. But you have to come up out the situationships. You have to come up out of, the Lord said he's not pleased. He said you creating all types of soul ties, all type of ungodly attachments that's hindering your walk with him. That's hindering your walk with him. He said never be somebody else's option. God said you're not an option in his eye. In his eyes, he said he prioritized you each and every day that he wake you up. He prioritized you. Even when you don't even stop to think about him, he prioritized you. And you have to come into agreement that I will no longer dance for the devil. I will no longer play I scratch your back, you scratch my back. I will no longer play, well, if you give me this, I'll give you that. He said, come up out that situationship. He said, come up out that situationship. If there's no end goal and you've been with somebody for years, how would a man not know if you're gonna be his wife and you've been with him for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? From what I know and from the research I've been doing and from the godly men that have ministered to me, a man knows. But until that person, the right person or woman that he feel like he won't, comes along, of course, if he feel like you just giving up stuff for free, and you just giving up your time, your resources, or whatever he may be benefiting from you, if you giving it up for free, of course he gonna entertain you, even without an end goal, because he see the brokenness in you, he see the failure to heal in you, and he's benefiting off of it. Even if you think you got one over his head, even if you think you got one over her head, but it always ends with somebody hurt. It always ends with a loss of time. Don't waste your time on situations and relationships that does not have an end goal. A man that's submitted to the Lord, he will show you his commitment. He will prioritize you. A man that's going somewhere. A lot of people say, I don't believe in marriage. Yeah, that's what you think until you get into the wrong relationship, because a lot of us, we wasn't brought up to know. We don't know any better. And until we sit with God, until we sit with ourselves, and until we fully heal, we're going to keep on entertaining the same people, just in different bodies. It's going to be the same people, the same men, the same women. We're going to be entertaining. We're going to say, hey, that person reminds us of our ex. Yeah, of course they do, because we failed to do the healing. So again, y'all, I just wanted to get up on here, and I just wanted to speak about situationships and relationships that's not going nowhere. It does not have an end goal. It makes you compromise, lower yourself, give away your worth and your value, and you don't get nothing in return. You get nothing, no ring, you get no commitment, you get nothing in return. And it actually brings you further away from God than actually bringing you closer to God. So I just want to get up on here and touch and agree with you that you do have it in you to come up out that situationship. You do have it in you to no longer entertain people, situations, anyone. It don't matter, family or not, friendships or not. If they don't bring you to God, if they don't elevate you, if you can't pour into each other in a righteous and a holy way, you need to come up out of it. And you can ask God for the strength this day so you can prayerfully come up out of it, because you don't want to be in bondage. You don't want to be watching this video 5 years later, and it's not going to be easy. Every day going to be a battle. The enemy going to try to plant seeds of doubt in your head, but you got to come against it with the word of truth, and that's with the Bible. But you got to come into an agreement and say, I deserve better, and I'm going to get better. I will never be somebody else's option. Being an option is never an option for me. That's what you got to come into an agreement with. Again, I hope this message blesses y'all. This is not going to be for everybody, because everybody is not in a situationship, and you may not find yourself in one. You might been in one, but I just want to get up on here because the Lord is calling a lot of his sons and daughters out this season, out of situationships, out of relationships that does not glorify him, that does not bring glory to him, her, him, whoever it may be. He wants you out, and he said he has better for you. You just have to come and believe it. Stop committing, stop being attached, and stop creating things that he did not ordain for your life. Again, I thank y'all for y'all time. If you would, if you haven't considered subscribing, please consider subscribing. That way this message, and liking, so this message can get out to those that's really going to be in the need of it now or in the future. God bless y'all. I thank y'all for y'all time. Until next time, take care.